But immersion is one thing we tell ourselves is also the reason why we're not speaking yet. Is, oh yeah, I'm not around French people, I can't practice speaking, I'm not immersed, so it's just not going to happen. No, you need to get speaking as soon as possible. We have the internet. This video is for all of you passionate French learners out there who keep telling yourselves that today is just not the right time to start speaking. You'll start practicing speaking French very soon, but right now you don't have enough vocabulary, or your accent isn't very good, or you just don't think you can have a conversation. This video is for you to give you some solid reasons from my personal experience of living in France and have been trying to speak French for the last 5 years as to why that is bullcrap. You've got to start speaking today, and here's why. Allez, c'est parti. One of the biggest reasons why I think you should be speaking French right away from the end of this video is because you encounter so many things that you don't encounter when you're just studying in your books or your apps or online. When you start speaking, you get put out of your comfort zone, whether you like it or not. And speaking is the only thing which improves your speaking. What I mean by that is you get better at retaining the language that you're studying. It's a big part of the memorization process is to produce the language, not only by writing, but by speaking especially. The only thing that's going to improve your speaking is speaking. Another thing is it prepares you for being uncomfortable, because you should get used to being uncomfortable speaking in a foreign language. It's not natural, it's weird, you're a grown-up, you shouldn't be speaking as slow as a child or in broken French like a 3-year-old French person does. But you just got to get used to it because it's part of the process. And the sooner you do that, the better you'll feel, the more used to the discomfort you'll feel, and so therefore the faster you'll progress. There are certain things we say to ourselves to convince ourselves that it's not the right time to speak French right now. For example, they might reply to me in English, or the last time I spoke to someone in French, they spoke to me in English. Well, as I've already talked briefly about in this video, is that one reason why people speak to you in English isn't necessarily because your French is bad. It's because they want to practice their English, or because you're not in an environment to practice French and they just want to get their point across quickly and move on, so they're speaking English. Yes, they might get impatient with you, but again, they might not be there to be your language partner. That's just an everyday occurrence that you just have to get used to, especially if you live in France like I do. If you're an expat in France, people may be impatient. That's their problem, that's not yours. So by speaking, by pushing yourself to speak, you welcome these situations of discomfort, you get used to them, and over time, they faze you much, much less. So it's great for your personal development and confidence as a whole. And something else we tell ourselves is, oh no, I'm not ready, my accent's not good enough, my pronunciation's not good enough, people aren't going to understand me. Well, that is rubbish, I'm sorry, because most of us, when we're learning, we're going to be saying basic things, and as long as we're speaking to the right people, people are going to understand us and they're going to be patient, and you're going to improve your pronunciation more from speaking because you're going to get corrections. And also you're going to hear yourself produce these sounds, and that's going to make you pay attention to the things that you're saying. You're going to realize that you're actually better at saying some things than you thought you were, and you're going to realize some things need more work than you realize, but you don't encounter these situations until you start speaking. And so you see, all of these things are things that you just can't learn just from learning more vocab. More vocabulary, more French vocabulary is going to make you stronger in a sense because you'll have more words to use. But if you haven't got used to speaking, I guarantee you those first few times when you open your mouth, you're going to be shocked because you will reach a block. Because in real-time conversation, you can't be prepared for everything you might need to say. So you have to get used to getting these mental blocks. I hate them. I still get them, and I've been here 5 years. I'm particularly bad because I'm a perfectionist by nature. I love getting things right, so it's very hard for me to turn this off. But I've had to learn to do it. I've had to get used to that mental block and learning to talk around stuff. Recently, when I was at Christmas with my girlfriend's family, It was the first Christmas I'd spent in French, and I tell you, I learned a lot because I couldn't just switch to English because I didn't speak English. So that pushed me to think around the words and find another way to describe what I was saying. I got regularly blocked, but it's fantastic. And this is one of the main reasons why immersion is so good. But immersion is one thing we tell ourselves is also the reason why we're not speaking yet. Is, oh yeah, I'm not around French people, I can't practice speaking, I'm not immersed, so it's just not going to happen. No, you need to get speaking as soon as possible. We have the internet. We have ways that you can find people to practice with. This takes more action from your part, but in the end, that's a good habit to have developed. You've gone out and looked for the practice for speaking French. So you have then pushed yourself and you've shown more self-discipline to put yourselves in that uncomfortable situation. So then when it comes to being more immersed, more exposed, you're more prepared than the person who's just flown themselves into France and dropped themselves in at the deep end. Regarding vocabulary, you're never going to have enough vocabulary to cover all the bases in a real-time conversation. Sure, you can go prepared to your language exchange conversations, which I fully encourage you to do. However, there's always going to be times where you're going to get blocked because someone will ask you a question you weren't prepared for. How are you going to deal with that? Well, you know what? You don't know until you put yourself in that position to start speaking, to face that situation. So when I'm in these situations when I am getting blocked, like I say, I still get them today because every day is a new opportunity to face something you haven't talked about before. I do sometimes feel myself wanting to just stay back and listen to the conversation around me if it's in a group situation. Obviously, if it's one-on-one, you're more or less forced to speak, otherwise it looks a bit weird. But if it's in a group situation, I feel the desire sometimes, especially if I'm a bit tired, to not speak, just to hold it in because I don't want to mess up. But more and more, I push myself to say something, to get involved in the conversation, because then I can count that as a little win for the day and think to myself, I had a choice there to not speak and to not progress, or I can make a mistake or surprise myself and say something that they understand. And the best reaction I can have in a room full of French people outside of a natural learning environment like a language exchange is that they just carry on with the conversation, because that means I've said something that a native would say, or at least something that doesn't sound completely weird. And so as a French speaker, you get used to just this sort of situation being normal. What about that guilty feeling that perhaps you find, perhaps you've moved to France and you don't feel like you have a very strong level of speaking yet, and that's okay because you haven't been speaking very long, but the people you know around you, the French people that you know around you, speak great English. And again, they speak English to you. You feel guilty for making them speak English, even though it's their choice to speak English. It's funny how our minds work. We think it's our fault and we feel guilty for that because they're speaking English in their own country. Well, a lot of French people now love to speak English, so that shouldn't be something you worry about. But B, that's okay. That's a situation you're going to get used to, and you're going to then decide eventually, hopefully very soon, you're going to decide to take action the next time. The next time that happens, you're going to learn a phrase to ask the person to switch back to French. And they might be surprised. And they might carry on speaking English to you in 2 seconds, 30 seconds. But that's their choice. Control what you can control, which is to keep speaking French, to try those little phrases you need. And you know what? If you have to speak English because you just don't have the language right now, that's okay. But make the effort, speak, even if it's 30 seconds, even if it's 10 seconds. If that's better than what you did yesterday, or it's the same but on a topic you haven't spoken about, that's brilliant. You can consider yourself proud because you succeeded in going further than you have before. But you only get this from speaking. And finally, frankly, it's addictive when you start speaking French and it's going well. You want to do it again. Sure, there's going to be things that you come away from each conversation with feeling like you could have done better. But instead of channeling those and focusing on just the negatives, focus on all the things that went well, the things that you can be proud of yourself about. Focus on the things that you surprised yourself as saying. And of course, I'm not saying ignore the negative things, but if you're someone who focuses on them too much, Just don't focus on them so much for now. Focus on the positives. Write everything down. Journal everything. Write down the things that went well and the things that went badly, or I like to term it things that could have gone better instead of saying what went badly. It's a neat little psychological trick, but it does have an effect and it focuses you on being more of a positive person. We want to be proud of ourselves. You want to be proud of yourself for doing something different, doing something that was challenging. And when you live in France, you're faced with this every day if you go outside because the French is all around you. But whether you're in France or not, if you want this badly enough, you will push yourself to face up to the challenge and take on the challenge of pushing yourself a little bit every single day. And you'll be proud of yourself for showing up and making that effort. And in my video last week, I talked a bit about the importance of logging your progress so you can see over time how far you've come, and it keeps your motivation up and it keeps you coming back for that challenge. So the advice I'm going to leave you with today is go out there and find yourself a conversation partner on something like conversationexchange.com, or a tutor like I did. Even though I was living in France, the best practice I got for speaking was with a tutor because it was a controlled environment where I could practice. You can find someone to help you on italki.com. There'll be links to both those sites and others down in the description below. And you've heard me talk about italki before, but this is not a sponsored video. It's purely because I think it's a fantastic service. You can find really affordable tutors on there if money is an issue. And so the first time, whether you're starting speaking or whether you're getting back into speaking, think about it as planting the seed. And every time you have a spoken exchange, you're growing that tree. As cheesy as it sounds, you're growing that tree. It's an opportunity to see that bloom. It's not going to change overnight. I'm not saying you're not going to have some negative thoughts and things to improve after each one, but that's fantastic as well because that helps you identify what you need to work on. Alors, it might not feel like right now is the right time to go and plant that seed, but I guarantee you, if it's not now, when will it be? No pain, no gain, right? J'ai raison, je le sais. Allez, va te rendre fier de toi. Go out there and make yourself proud. It's the start of a brand new year. I'm full of motivation, full of inspiration, and I just want the best French learning experience for you guys. So go out there and keep on improving and share with me down in the comments your wins. This is a bit of a different video today, guys. It's a bit more tough love. I hope you enjoyed it. It's because I love you guys and you guys inspire me to keep on making these videos, and I want to inspire you to go out there and be the best French speakers you can be. So if you're new around here, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel and hit the like button down below. It helps me get my stuff out in front of more pairs of eyes. But until next time, everyone, merci beaucoup d'avoir regardé. Bon français. À la prochaine. Ciao.